are a ton of these pencil brushes, but I do want to very quickly run you through each one just to show you what's included. So there's a this square pencil right here is something I use a lot. This one's nice because it's got a square tip, and that makes it a lot more expressive, I think. Moving on, here's another square one. This one is more for sketching. Okay, so I do have a bunch of real pencils that are supposed to mimic pencils you would use on paper. But this one here is a 2H pencil, so I would probably use this one a lot for sketching. It's very thin and has, you can see it has like a build up to it. This one is a toothy pencil, has a lot of texture on the edges, but it's very dark and sharp. This Real HB is probably the pencil, the organic pencil that I use the most out of any of them. It's got a nice tooth to it. It has some build up. Alright, so now I'm going to get into some of my sketching brushes. I don't like to sketch too lightly because when I do that I end up spending way too much time going back and forth on things because I'm not really a very confident sketcher. So when I use this brush, it kind of forces me, almost like when you sketch with a ballpoint pen and can't erase. It sort of forces you to make more confident, broader strokes. This pencil acts almost like a brush, actually, because it gets really thick to thin, so I like it a lot. Okay, getting carried away here. Alright, now I have this square sketch brush, this is a more digital pencil. There's no tooth to it or texture at all. This reminds me a lot of the way I would sketch in Adobe Photoshop. Okay, what else we got? This one is a tilt brush. Now this is something, anything that's marked with tilt, you're only going to be able to use this brush if you have a tablet that supports tilt. I believe most of the quality ones do support tilt. I know, of course, all the Wacom tablets do. So if you're using any of those, then these brushes are fine. If What's neat about this brush is that it works a little bit like the iPad pencil, where when you tilt it, it becomes broader, and then when the pen is straight up and down, it's a thin line, just like a real pencil. All right. All right. This expressive sketch brush, similar to that other brush I had. This brush is excellent for cartooning. Alright, this one, the Real Ebony, this is a real thick, dark black line. I was trying to create something that mimicked the ebony pencils that I use on paper a lot after my sketch is down. So this is something that's great for outlines. You can see the stroke like that. And there's a lot of tooth to it. This digital pencil, the BA digital pencil. This is the pencil that I would say I probably use the most out of all of them. And again, this one has no tooth. Well, actually, it has a tiny bit of tooth, but I like the pressure sensitivity of it. Alright, and then I've got 3 pencil shading brushes. So I'm going to start a new layer and set these to multiply above. And I'm going to select kind of a gray color. the first one, the shader compare density, works like this. The compare density blending mode on Clip Studio Paint is really cool. Basically what it means is when you put down one value, your next stroke on top of that value will mimic the exact same value. So what does that mean? Let me show you. When you've got a stroke like this, I'm pressing down 100%, so you're just going to get 100% black. So the next time I go over this, even if I press really lightly, it's putting down 100% black. Now, let's say I go like this on my first stroke. Now, when I go over top of that, you can see my brush moving, and I'm pushing fairly hard, and nothing is happening. It's comparing that density. It's trying to mimic what I already had down. And the reason this is really cool is there are times when you want to extend your shading and draw more of the shading, but you don't want it to build up because the value that you've already achieved is perfect. So I'll show you what happens when compare density is turned off. So here's, I'm pressing about 50%. Now when I go over top of this again, it's building up that shading like you assume it would, like it does in all other programs. So I usually keep this as a separate brush because it's not something that I want to use all the time, but it can be handy. Alright, so there's one shader, and then this one is a nice soft shader. I'm going to pick like a gray. And this one is really cool because it's got like a square tip and then a lot of texture to it. Alright, thanks for watching. You can get these and a bunch of other brushes at my website, clipstudiopaintbrushes.com.